would you agree with the statement that every living thing is created from water?
No.
You wouldn't.
No, because water is a substance. It has a specific chemical formula, H2O. So, for example, my skeleton contains calcium and phosphorus and all kinds of other like minerals within it, which obviously
Yeah.
cannot be created from water. The only thing that water is capable of making is hydrogen or oxygen or hydroxide, and that's basically it.
Okay. Well, I would have to disagree with you, but in terms
Why?
of because obviously there's science and then there's religion, and in my religion it clearly states that every living thing was created from water.
Okay, well,
Can I ask you a question really
why
quick?
then why do you believe that other than your religion claims it? See, to
Okay,
me,
because
you should only believe a claim if the claim can be demonstrated, not necessarily scientifically, but in some sort of repeatable or observable process, not just because a source claims that that is the case. So, why do
okay,
you believe that?
because the source is God, and the source is the one who
Yeah,
created
but
everything.
that's also just a separate belief. I believe that the source is God. So, what
Yeah.
reason do you have that water can create anything?
No,
That
no,
water
it's
can
not
create
water.
things that are different than the chemical makeup of water.
No, so I'm not saying water creates anything. God creates things, but
Then
in
why did
terms
you
of
say water creates everything?
no, I said that every living thing came from water. Living, not. I don't mean
Okay, well that's
inanimate.
just
I
not
don't mean
true. So why did you say that?
because that is a statement that is made.
What?
So, for instance, you believe in the Big Bang. I also believe in a Big Bang, but your theory is based on science, and my theory is based on God. God says that the heavens and the earth were one entity, and we separated them. So the earth and the heaven were the point and the source of the Big Bang. Whereas you and science believe that the point of the source of Big Bang was a dense form of cloud with this immense gravity surrounding it, which exploded due to heat and pressure.
Nope.
And
That's not even
then,
remotely close. But anyways,
okay,
just out of curiosity, are you Christian or
I'm a
Muslim?
Muslim.
Okay,
Yeah.
just curious. So, how do you explain the fact that there was not a single religious thinker in the universe that thought that there was such a thing as the Big Bang, that the universe was anything other than eternal until after science unveiled that we live in an expanding universe?
Okay. I think you're incorrect in your statement. The Quran clearly states from 1400 years ago, before science knew about the Big Bang, that the universe was expanding.
Right. So
That's what
Islam
I'm
also,
saying
the
before.
Islamic scholars would have also held to the idea that the sun revolves around the earth rather than the other way around. And they would have said, clearly our religion shows us this to be true, but it turns out it's not true. So you can't just take some random poetry written by nobody knows who, nobody knows when, and say that that is science. Because
Okay, so
if you dug for, like your Klaus Schwab, your
yeah,
whatever, Charles Schwab,
yeah.
the quote where he talks about how we need more wars so there are fewer people, that quote doesn't exist. You will also not be able to find me a Muslim scholar. If you looked up the works of Ibn al-Haytham or anybody like that, you will not find a single one of them talking about the universe expanding from a singular point, because none of them thought that, and certainly none of them thought that their book said that. So this is just you looking at the science and saying, "Oh yeah, that's what my book told us all along." It's nonsense.
Okay, so remember, this book was for all time, not just for the people at the time who were not educated to that level.
Irrelevant.
So I do believe that the sun and the moon go around the earth. And another statement that is
Oh, well,
made
that's
is
not
that
true
the
either.
it is true, but
Well,
science
it's
doesn't
not
agree with it.
true. So,
But this is what I'm here to contest. So just to
Okay.
clarify, if, if for instance, because obviously it would mean that religion is wrong, God is wrong, and man-made science
Correct.
and theories
I
are
don't,
correct.
I don't know if that's true, by the way. There are plenty of religious people who take the Big Bang seriously, who take evolution seriously, and so on. they're still religious. They still believe in a Christian God. Actually, this is quite common. And in fact, the same thing is true with Muslims. There are plenty of like Muslim scientists, or like biologists, physicists, and so on who take these things seriously. They just interpret the book differently than you do.
Okay, so let me give you an example. The sun and moon will be joined up on Judgment Day. Now, let's take the moon, for instance. You know that based on science, Jupiter has moons, Mars has moons, many other planets have lots of moons. So the moon is an insignificant piece of satellite orbiting a planet, according to science. So why would God
Science
emphasize...
doesn't describe values to things, which is what you just did.
Yes, but what I'm trying to clarify for you is that the sun and moon being joined up would also agree with the statement that they are of similar size and have a similar... Because if you take the size of the moon according to science, it will just melt and get disintegrated into the sun based on how big it is currently. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
That is what happened.
So what, God would not need to make up a reference to the sun and moon being joined up, because God would himself would know that the moon is so small in comparison to the sun that joining them up would achieve no possible purpose. So this is what I'm trying to clarify, that there's certain areas of science which I believe have just got a lot of theory in them, and man-made theory has been chosen over real truth or objective truth.
Your idea of real truth is just what you believe in.
And there are plenty of Muslim scientists who don't think that that's going to happen.
Yeah, and I don't understand how, if one day when the end comes and the sun and the moon will join up, then they're the same size. How does a hypothetical Armageddon, or whatever you're talking about, which may or may not happen in the future, how does an event that hasn't happened yet and we don't know if it will happen prove anything?
Okay. All right, then we could take events that do happen now.
No, we're talking about the specific thing that you brought up, because when you make claims, I'm going to hold your feet to the fire. So we're not going to change the subject. Tell me how an event that has not happened yet, and we have no idea if it will ever happen, prove anything.
Well, it proves that there is an alternative form of theory for something happening, as opposed to what...
No, it certainly does not do that.
Okay,
here's my theory. Here's my theory. That prophecy or whatever is incorrect. So there, it just proved that it's not correct. Because I theorized it.
Okay, you're entitled to that opinion, and that's fine. But when we look upon data and events, it doesn't match up with the heliocentric model that you believe in.
It 100% does.
Okay, so another sun and moon example would be that a sign before Judgment Day is that we'll have 3 days of darkness, and then the sun will rise from the west. That is impossible on your heliocentric model.
It's impossible on your model.
No, it isn't, because on our model, geocentric, whether you believe the Earth is a ball with the sun revolving around it, or whether you believe the Earth is flat, the sun revolving around it, it can change its orbit.
How?
Change its orbit because the sun is an insignificant aspect to the Earth, whereas with the heliocentric model, it's sun worship.
How does that make it possible for it to change its direction?
Because it's going one direction and it can now change and go a different direction.
How does it do that? Why can it do that? How does your model explain the ability of the sun to do that?
My model explains because the sun, the moon, and the stars were told, come willingly or come forced. And they said, we come willingly. So that means they are living beings or entities or energy that understands. So
Incorrect.
They are actually... No.
So how does the sun change directions in your model?
It will be told, stop going that direction and change your course. And it will do it.
Wait, by who, though?
By God.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So because you've imagined a supernatural being with supernatural powers that can do things, that therefore proves anything? Do you see how that doesn't... do you really not understand how that doesn't prove anything? It's just a belief.
No, I understand it's a belief, but the thing is, You can take belief and then apply it to science and work out whether science is accurate or the belief is accurate. And in my opinion, the belief is more accurate than science.
No, it isn't.
How do you come to that
Okay.
conclusion?
Okay,
Other
so
than just saying that science is wrong, therefore I'm right, how do you come to that conclusion?
okay, so as for the heliocentric model, for the sun to rise from the west, it would require the Earth's poles to rotate as they have done in the past, and then cause the sun to rise from the west. But as you know, that change would be catastrophic to life on Earth.
Okay.
Would you agree with that?
We are 100% hitting the brakes here. You're telling me that the science is wrong and your belief is right because it is because of the physical impossibility, according to the accepted scientific model, that Earth could just simply stop rotating in one direction. So rather than saying my belief, which is based on nothing other than belief, is incorrect, the data-driven science is incorrect. And again, you're talking about an event that hasn't happened yet. You're saying, my belief is that something that will happen in the future, which we have no explanation for how it will happen beyond God will make it happen, must therefore be true. And the science, the data-driven science, says that this sort of thing can't happen. Therefore, that proves that my beliefs are right and science is wrong. How do you not understand how insane
No,
that is?
I do understand that. I do understand that, and I did.
Then why do you say it and think it?
No, I am thinking it. I gave you prior to this. I gave you an event that has already happened, which is the Big Bang. No, you haven't. The Big Bang hasn't already happened then.
Oh, the Big Bang? Oh, okay. Well, yes, the Big Bang happened, but your book doesn't talk about the Big Bang happening.
It does. I can give you the verses and lines, and you can read.
You're going to give me some vague poetry in a dusty old book written by nobody knows who, nobody knows when, which doesn't say anything specific at all. It's not based on science. It's not based on math. It's not based on observation. It's just these elastic words that you can bend and stretch to make say whatever you want, which is why before anybody knew that we live in an expanding universe, no religious thinker was out there going, no, this you scientists, you don't know anything. The universe is actually expanding and blah, blah, blah. None of them did that. And by none, I mean none of them. Okay? So no, the book doesn't prove anything. You're just doing a post hoc rationalization of what you think it says based on the evidence. Again, but then you turn around and go, these prophecies that haven't happened yet are true based on the fact that science says it can't be possible.
Okay, so for instance, there's lots of examples of things that have already happened that have been stated which match up to science, but science didn't find them out until the 20th century.
Such as?
I can give you examples. Okay, when the heavens split asunder and become rosy like red hide, that is a statement from the Quran. It's talking about the Rosette Nebula. That's like the Rosette Nebula. When a galaxy or star or anything explodes, it explodes with hydrogen alpha and it gives off a red color.
So the words hydrogen alpha are in the Quran.
Now, do you think hydrogen alpha
they're not.
Was known for?
So in other words, again, you have this cryptic poetry, these vague elastic words which don't say anything. It just mentions a color and mentions the sky being part of it. So that means that any single thing that is red that is in the sky can therefore be argued to have been talked about in the Quran. This is just the Nostradamus effect times a million.
Okay, so is maths not a cryptic poetry of science then?
Math? Okay, give me one mathematical thing in the Quran.
There's millions of mathematical things in the Quran.
Well, then you should be able to come up with one.
Okay. Well, the Quran has the word water and the word earth in the exact percentages for the amount of water and earth there is on the current earth.
You know that's not what he means by math, right? You know that's not what he means by math.
Yeah, but it shows the linguistically accurate maths it's got within it.
No, it doesn't. if what you said is even true, all it does is
true.
prove a coincidence by surface area. That just makes no sense whatsoever.
And again, I think this comes back to the thing that the claim is not proof of the claim.
Yeah. No, it's understandable. I understand that you believe in your science, which is a man-made. I
So do
agree with
you.
science as
You
well.
believe in the Big Bang. It's just that weirdly you don't believe that the Earth goes around the sun because of a prophecy, multiple prophecies that have not happened yet. I don't understand how you can possibly think the Big Bang is true. The scientific model of the Big Bang is true, but based on like what my religious text says. But then you don't think that the Earth orbits the sun because of a prophecy that hasn't happened yet, also in your religious text. How does that make any sense?
Again, my version of Big Bang doesn't agree with your scientific theory of Big Bang. You don't believe that the Earth was
Okay,
the
then
center of the Big
science
Bang.
does not support. Okay, then your religion is not scientific then.
And wait, what is your version of the Big Bang then?
That the Earth and the heavens were separated. That was the point of the Big Bang.
Okay, describe how that works.
The Earth was created. The heavens were separated from it.
How?
The heavens were created. Whereas your version is that millions, billions of years created different little coincidences and allowed the right circumstances for life to happen. Whereas my version has that it was all created in order.
Okay, what evidence do you have for it?
And the Big Bang doesn't have anything to do with evolution. Just wanted to put that out there. They're separate.
Well,
what evidence do you have to support your claim?
Well, obviously, I don't have the evidence that you would be happy with, so I don't really have evidence for you. But I have evidence.
What I'm wondering is why you call it why you call what you just described as your Big Bang a Big Bang to begin with, because it doesn't sound like it's the same type of thing.
Yeah, because
like it sounds like you're describing a religious creation, whereas what we're describing is not, right? Like they are different things. So why do you think that your book supports what the scientists suggest?
Okay, so let me try to analogize it slightly a bit better for you then. Mars, Venus, Saturn, Jupiter, and every other planet, all the stars in the sky, every other galaxy was part of the Earth. There was one entity, and then we separated them. So the Earth became separate from all those other entities, and them entities were put into the order and created.
How?
So that is a Big Bang, is it not?
No, it's not. The Big Bang describes something that's very specific. So, if you think that your book is describing something different than what scientists are describing, then they're not describing the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, and you said earlier that science supports what the Quran says, but then you say, well, actually, my Big Bang your religious Big Bang is completely different and disagrees with the scientific one. So science actually doesn't support what you believe in.
Okay, so do you not understand that scientific theories and ideas change over time to fit more better to what they may accurately describe as?
They change according to the new data and new information that comes in. When we learn new facts, we adjust what we know.
They don't even change. What does happen is that new theories are developed that explain old theories and also explain new things that the old theories didn't apply to.
Okay.
That's
understandable.
Yes. Think of it like a pyramid that never stops growing, right? You continue adding on. You don't go to the base level where you've already made your correct predictions and then throw those out. You already know those were right. You just try to make it more and more accurate as you go. You build upon what you already know.
Riz, I have a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Would you rather live in a world where we never gained new knowledge, or in a world where we did gain new knowledge?
I would like to live in a world where we gain new knowledge every day and that we had the form of truth that was uncorruptible.
Okay, I don't know what that. I don't know why you attached that second
What
thing to
what
it.
what I'm
So
trying to say is,
because you
I
think,
didn't-
do you think that science learns true things?
science learns true things, but science is
Okay, so then
also heavily
what was the
manipulated.
point of saying don't scientific theories change over time? You agree that that fits with the model of an existence you would want to have, where we do learn new things over time, and that science is a tool. I didn't say it's the only tool. I said it's a tool, and you agreed with it, that learns
Okay,
true things. So what was your point?
okay. So to remove religion for a minute, in order to go back to science to help you understand, Ptolemy had
No, what
a.
was your point? Don't talk about Ptolemy.
Okay, I'm trying to give you my point so that you can
No, I don't. I
understand.
really don't think you are. So tell me what the point was.
All right, the point was that science changes to fit either an indoctrination narrative or to fit
Incorrect.
a false narrative.
Incorrect.
That's my point. I can
Incorrect.
prove it to you, though. That's what.
Scientists, no, that is incorrect. Do you know? Okay. Could you give me one example of where a scientist proved another scientist wrong, or discovered something new that another scientist did not know?
Yes, I can give you lots of examples, but one of those examples I tried to give you earlier, which you wouldn't allow me to tell you, was about Ptolemy. And it's one of the common questions that you globies like to pose to flat
Ptolemy
earthers.
thought that the sun went around the earth. So I'm not interested in appealing to Ptolemy here. So, okay, if science is an indoctrination, then geez, what the heck? What's the deal with scientists correcting the errors of other scientists then, if it's an indoctrination conspiracy or whatever? My other question would be, name one thing that was ever proven wrong in science by religion. Name one thing your religion has ever discovered that proved a scientific idea wrong.
Well, here's some proof for you that the first humans were Adam and Eve, not no
Prove it.
ancestors of any monkeys.
Prove it.
So therefore,
Prove
but
it.
that's where it becomes from your
Prove it.
what you believe in. You believe in
Prove the
your religion,
existence of Adam and
science.
Eve.
Yeah, who discovered that? I would like to know.
I don't believe in things because I believe in them. I believe in things for which there's evidence to believe. Okay? So demonstrate, prove to me, give me some evidence that Adam and Eve existed other than the claim that they existed.
Okay, this is just because biology or evolution isn't my strong point, but I think this is fairly accurate when I say it. That do not all the DNA base pairs come down to one male and one female common ancestor for every human being.
Yes, they lived at different times though.
Again,
And
that's where
that's
your
done with
science.
mitochondrial DNA, not with nuclear DNA. Well, for
Okay.
the atom, it's done with a Y chromosome analysis, which is part of your nuclear DNA. But
Yeah. So it is fundamentally that you're going to always go based upon what science says as your. Remember, science is based on man's interpretation of things. So you will only
yes,
accept that.
it's okay.
So is the Quran though, is it not?
Yeah,
Based
No,
off of your interpretation of the Quran?
no, science. The Quran came as a revelation from God.
Yes,
Many
yes, but
people like.
you didn't receive the revelation directly. You are interpreting it.
are
Yes,
you
but
Sunni
it's
or
something.
Shia?
I'm neither. I'm Muslim.
Okay, so how can there be different types of Islam if it's uncorruptible truth?
Okay. How can there be different people from America when there's only one America?
Okay, so you're not answering the question. So
No,
how do you know
I'm
that Adam and
answering the
Eve
question.
existed? I
I'm answering
don't
the
like it
question,
when
but you
the
don't want to hear
subject
the
gets
answer.
changed so many times.
Mhm.
So, how do you know Adam and Eve existed?
Well, we've got evidence for them existing,
In
What
the
would that?
form of?
graves in the form of clothes, in the form of
Where are
footprint.
Adam and Eve's bones and clothing?
Okay. I don't know off top of my head where exactly where they are, but I know that I've seen pictures. I've seen a top, like a garment that was worn by Adam that's like really, really tall.
Well, wait, how do you know?
Oh God.
Because I wanted to say, if you're just accepting that because quote like you said, saw some stuff, that sounds awfully a lot like indoctrination, right? You're just accepting a set of beliefs uncritically. You are not questioning it at all. It sounds an awful lot like you were projecting when you're saying that we're indoctrinated.
No, no, I'm not saying you're indoctrinated. I'm just saying that you're taking it's a way you're being closed off as accepting science is the only form of truth. What I'm trying to say is science is accurate, but there's some theories and some areas of science which are incorrect, and it's a
Like,
case of you shouldn't just wholeheartedly accept them as being
How do you
factual truth.
determine what's correct and not?
Okay, when something doesn't line up with a base, you need to have a base for truth. Your base for
Is
truth
your
would be
base
science,
is your base for truth the Quran?
100%.
So you're saying that you say that science is correct or science is incorrect when it doesn't line up with the Quran.
Only in areas where it would be foundationally, changing the world. So, for instance,
Okay,
if it was a
but
case of
there are hundreds of millions of Muslims who believe the Earth is spherical.
yeah,
So clearly, it's not foundational, right?
yeah, that doesn't believing the Earth's spherical or not isn't going to change a person's outlook on life too much. But having the
There
sun
are
and moon
tens
going
of millions
around
of
the Earth.
Muslims who believe that the Big Bang happened, that like the scientific Big Bang happened.
Okay, the scientific Big Bang happened, as in like it took
As in,
billions of
the
years,
universe is
and
billions of years old, that evolution took place, that the Big Bang nucleosynthesis took place, that like all of these. There are tens of millions of Muslims who accept mainstream science.
okay, they will not accept how the sun and moon and
I
Earth
I mean I can
have come
introduce
to.
you to some if that would be helpful. Actually, I don't know any
Then
that are on TikTok, but like
this
I know some. I know them personally. Like there are plenty of Muslims who do. They
yeah,
pray.
well,
I don't know, like, what 5 times a day, however many times you're supposed to pray.
yeah,
Like they are
okay.
good Muslims too. So
What I'm trying to get at is based on the Big Bang theory of science, you don't believe it was instigated by a creator. That's what I'm trying to get at here.
no. Science says nothing about what caused the Big Bang. That's why there's room for religious people to believe or to take the Big Bang seriously. Science has no input on what caused the Big Bang. At least not yet.
Okay, all right. Let's remove that from the equation so it's not like a controversy. Next point on that Big Bang is the distance from the sun and Earth in order to provide the Goldilocks zone for life on Earth. Was that a coincidence or was that a created
Some
event?
people would probably say Muslims would like scientifically minded Muslims who are still religious would probably think that it was intentional. I would say
Yeah.
that it was coincidental, but that doesn't matter because we still agree on the facts. We still agree
No, but
that
Riz,
the
there
Earth formed in a way.
there are
what
organisms that can live in temperatures that are many tens of degrees below freezing, and there are organisms that can live in temperatures close to the boiling point of water, right? So life
and
clearly adapts to the conditions that are on our planet. So if Earth was farther away from the sun or closer to the sun, there's absolutely no reason why there could not still be life on this planet. So the idea that it was perfectly created is insane because life adapts to a huge variety of conditions because there are a huge variety of conditions on our planet. So this Goldilocks zone thing is totally moot. The only thing that a Goldilocks zone could provide that makes life possible as we understand it is the existence of water in a liquid state, but the range of Earth's Goldilocks zone, Earth could be as far away as Mars. As long as it still had a strong magnetic field, it would still have liquid water and weather. Earth could be 10% closer to the sun and still have liquid water. So this Goldilocks thing, it's it's an enormous range. So there's no evidence that it was done in any kind of careful or special or particular way, because it could have happened in unthinkably large numbers of different ways.
Okay, yeah, I've heard you say that before about some different things, so I understand what you're saying. For instance, let me give you another example. There are more advanced intelligent beings than human beings created out of plasma or fire. Science
Why?
doesn't even know about them, or science doesn't even document them.
What are you even talking about? Out of plasma? How does that happen?
Yes.
Okay, how do beings come out of plasma?
Okay. The olden word for it would be smokeless fire. So a fire with it which doesn't let off smoke. So you could either class that as a clean burning fire, or you could class it as plasma, or you could class it as some form of burning or fusion, for instance, without
You're talking
having
about
to let.
jinns?
That's right. Yes.
They don't exist.
Prophet Solomon, who did exist, who created Solomon's temple, used jinns to create them.
No, there's a claim from centuries ago by some goat herder that happened.
He didn't claim that.
Pardon, Blitz?
He's my prophet, and he didn't claim that.
He's my prophet more, and
No,
my
he's your prophet more. He was Jewish.
Yes, but without having to go into the religious grey areas, we don't ascribe any bad things to any of the prophets, whereas many other religions ascribe many bad events to prophets, such as saying that Solomon had 700 wives. We don't believe in that claim.
What's wrong with having 700? Muhammad had all kinds of wives. What's wrong with having many wives?
Like I say, I don't want to go down the religious route because it only leads to further, it goes off the straightforward talking rather than.
Okay.
But I
have a slightly different question. So earlier you said something about like, well, science, you place your faith in men who are fallible, and we have we place our faith in God or whatever. So during the time of Muhammad, did God talk to anybody other than Muhammad?
Yeah, my people.
Yes, he talked to Moses. He talked to Jesus.
No. In the time of Muhammad. During the year approximately 600 CE, when Muhammad was alive, was God talking to anybody other than Muhammad?
In what context?
In any context. Was he directly speaking to anybody other than Muhammad? Does the Quran say God spoke to Muhammad these words, blah, 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 blah? Does it also anywhere in there say, and God also told Kyle, hey, next Tuesday, come over for brunch? Does God talk to anybody other than Muhammad in your book?
Kyle was in that
book? God does give events of past, present, and future of talking to different people, yes.
Does he talk to anybody other than Muhammad?
Remember that when you say talk to Muhammad, the revelation came through the angel Gabriel. So God.
Okay. So did God mediate direct communication or indirect communication to anybody other than Muhammad?
Not that as far as I'm aware of. If you're talking about that.
Okay. So then anybody that believed what Muhammad was saying is not getting their information from God. They're getting it from Muhammad, right? This is no different than Joseph Smith. No different than Joseph Smith at all. Okay,
so the difference is
that you believe it.
No. The difference is the Quran has two statements in it which are an attempt at people like you to destroy it, which is find a verse in it which you can find anywhere else that can be, made better than it to try to debunk it. Or the other is
the fact that the Quran says that sperm comes from your back when it clearly doesn't.
Well, they were clearly talking about that race of people from Voyager who lived to be like 9 years old and give birth from their backs.
That sounds awesome.
Okay, so that's where you're wrong.
Sperm does not come from your back, does it?
It does.
No, it doesn't.
What?
Science proves it comes from your back.
No, it doesn't.
minute.
It proves it comes from your balls.
No, your testicles, if that's correct terminology biologically to use,
No, you're
are
supposed to say
the area
balls.
that's the area where it's stored. The area
No, it
where
is not
sperm
stored
originates
there.
from-
It's stored in the seminal vesicles and I think the bulbourethral gland.
No, the Quran makes a statement that it comes from between the rib and the back. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
and
that's
it
exactly where
does not. Okay, semen is a complex fluid made of many things. Sperm cells, spermatocytes, are produced by the gonads, by the testes, right? Whereas a lot of the seminal fluids are produced by the prostate and a few other accessory glands. The entire thing, the whole mechanism for that is contained outside of the abdominal cavity, within the pelvic cavity, or actually outside of it, because humans are, well, it's true with a lot of mammals, but the scrotum is outside of the main body cavities, right?
Okay.
So absolutely nothing that goes on between the ribs has anything to do with the life-giving ejections of the male members of our species.
So let me give you an analogies from possibly 5 other religions.
How about
that
you give me
claim-
some like medical evidence, as some anatomical evidence?
Okay, so you know the statement Christ coming down and Christ rising up Jacob's ladder. That
This has nothing to do with the Quran and what it says about where sperm comes from.
What I'm trying to show you is that the fluid that comes from within your spine is a fluid that can be used to either enlighten you spiritually via going through to your pineal gland, or to create life here on Earth.
It says between the ribs, not in the spine. So cerebral spinal fluid can't do what you said. Also, it has nothing to do with this specific claim.
Yeah. So, like I said,
I don't know. The Egyptians supposedly knew something about it.
People's glands are calcified.
Yeah.
I'm not all into that fluoride stuff. I'm not into that. What I'm trying to say is that the backbone and the rib is the location that I'm clarifying for you. You're saying spinal. I'm trying to clarify. The Quran makes the statement that it comes from the backbone and the rib, between that area. So it could be any point between that area. But what I'm trying to say is that it's a fluid that can also be used to spiritually enlighten you as well as create life.
Nope, we're talking about whether or not that's where sperm or semen comes from.
Okay, so then I would have to disagree with science, just like many other areas. I believe science get it incorrect.
Okay, so you have absolutely nothing to back up your claim is wrong. So you're saying the science is wrong. This happened with a guy named Hipparchus a really long time ago. He worked out some math. He did some mathematics because he thought perhaps maybe the Earth goes around the sun rather than the other way around.
Yeah, and I know about Hipparchus.
He discovered that in order to make that work, the planets have to move in ellipses. So he concluded that math must be wrong because he believed that anything that moves has to move in perfect circles. So again, you're saying, well, then I have to disagree with literally the structure of the human body, which I don't know. I don't know how you live with that. I don't get. I don't get it. I don't get it. So sperm doesn't come from your back, but your book says it does. So therefore, your book must be right. How does that make sense?
Can I just clarify? The last time I looked at that, which was about 20 years ago, I saw scientific data which said it comes from your back.
It doesn't.
It does not.
Now let a man but think from what he has created. He is created from a drop emitted proceeding from between the backbone and the ribs.
That's what I said, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's not true.
Well,
not an ounce of sperm comes from there.
Okay, what I'll try to do is I'll try to find the scientific biologist that actually made the statement that is accurate. Yeah, because obviously if you don't know that that's the truth, I'll find the because I did see a scientific journal.
So what you just described to me is you're going to engage in confirmation bias. You won't find a single qualified doctor, anatomist, biologist, whatever, that is going to say that statement makes any sense. But if you find one who agrees with you, then that will prove that you are right.
it's not a case of finding someone to prove me right. It's a case to try to help you understand that science isn't the objective truth that you think it is.
Right.
My
So it's
mother,
proving me
mother is a
wrong,
medical,
but that's yeah.
my mother is a medical doctor. Should I just call her and ask?
Yeah, no. Well, when you say she's a medical doctor, does it mean she's an expert in cerebral spinal fluid?
I mean, she worked in the neurology department, so probably
Does she
more than
know
you.
about brain and neurons and synaptics?
She
And
worked
but
in the
she doesn't.
neurology department, so probably.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say, just because I'm not trying to say nothing against your mum's medical experience. What I'm trying to say is, if your mum was someone who was an expert in cerebral spinal fluid and also into sperm and the biology and the
Well,
etymology of
she's
it and
not an
everything.
That's what doctors are.
Wait, and
But
No,
wait, Ray,
doctors.
didn't a minute ago, didn't you just go back on that a second? Or sorry, didn't you say that it doesn't come from the cerebral spinal fluid? You were saying that that's not what
No,
you're saying, and now you're going back to saying
no,
that
I
what
just
you're
want to
saying.
clarify that the statement that Peterson read out, I agree with 100%, which is the back and the rib between that area. So whether it's from the spinal fluid or whether it's from some other reproductive organ, but it originates between the rib and the backbone, that's
what organs are between the rib and the backbone?
I think that's
okay. So
Like,
it
are there
could
any?
it could be talking about DNA. It could be that the DNA originates.
So in other
from
words, it can be whatever you want it to be to make it true for you. So this is really pointless. You've pretty clearly stated that if the science proves this verse wrong, then you'll say that the science isn't true. So this is not really worth talking about. So what else do you want to talk about?
I want you to prove to me that my book is wrong and your book is right about Solomon.
Okay.
Who do you get?
So
Where do you get off saying that my book, the book that was written more close in time to the time that Solomon lived, is wrong about him and yours is right?
okay. So your book, I'm not saying is wrong. I'm saying history's account has somehow deleted a whole version of events. So, for instance, the Freemasons, who I've spoken to in heavy regard and detailed accounts, because they take Hiram Abiff and Solomon as very high figureheads in their organizational fraternity. The Quran clearly and explicitly gives you every detail about the jinn and also the details about Solomon's interactions with them. And
so the jinn
God,
don't exist in Jewish tradition. Like they are not mentioned once. It's an Arabian thing. So of course it was included in an Arabian holy book.
And why would you believe a book written over 1,000 years after the events supposedly took place? Because you have to imagine that stuff was deleted when you have no evidence that anything was deleted.
okay, so there's lots of examples of, for instance, there's a king who you may know as Cyrus the Great, or what's the other, Alexander the Great, or maybe even there's another one. I can't remember.
Yeah, Cyrus was in Persia, was he not?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is he's known by different names. Yeah. So depending on where
Cyrus and Alexander were two different people. Like they're both historical figures, but they were different people.
Right.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is that you have many historical figures that have traveled vast distance of the earth, and then they've been amalgamated into that same figure, as opposed to being, the name has been forgotten. The only name I know for this historic king is the two-horned one, the one with the two horns, or the one who's been to the two horns.
Wait, are
Meaning
you talking about Solomon, or are you talking about like Cyrus or Alexander?
So I'm talking about someone who came before Solomon, yeah? And he basically went to the ends of the earth, and he basically created a mountain made out of copper and iron in order to separate.
David came before Solomon. Right. David was the king before Solomon was.
Yeah. So this man came after Moses. That's all I know for accurate information. But what I'm trying to say is he had interaction. He had interaction with the jinn as well, and that was at a period which should be known.
So if this happened, why is there no record in any of the Jewish tradition of these things, which presumably were written closer in time to when these events took place, if they took place at all?
Yeah, so this goes back to the etymology of things being taken out from history.
What?
That's not.
What etymology? I mean, like,
there's a very imprecise use of the term etymology, but
presumably, if you take the oh, globe's gone. If you take the story of the Quran seriously, then you believe that it came directly from God.
Yeah.
Which also means that you believe that the Torah, my book, and I don't actually know what the thought is on the other ones, that those also came directly from God.
Yes, I listen. Let me
Which
clarify.
includes the stories of David and Solomon.
Yes, the Psalms of David. Yeah, 100%.
So if you accept your book, you have to accept my book as historically accurate.
No, that's not accurate.
Then otherwise that means that God made a mistake when in communicating this book to the ancient Hebrews.
No, God did not make a mistake. What happened was that basically God has a promise that's been made, which has therefore not allowed the account to happen beforehand. Meaning we would have never existed had the account for what happened in history already taken place. Meaning, it's kind of hard to explain. But for instance, Satan has been given reprieve. No, it's not impossible.
Okay, here's what's going on. You're claiming that that the Jewish accounts of what happened are true, and so are your accounts, but they differ. What is required for both of those things to be true is for you to assert that there was additional information passed down during the time in which it was talked about in the Jewish tradition, but that information was just lost or purposely deleted, but you have zero evidence that any of that ever took place. You just say it has to have taken place to validate your own beliefs. I just want to point out that you've been in here for a long time and you have no coins.
Don't be a mean person. Don't be an asshole.
I've been in for like a minute and I have 10.
It's okay. I come in the belly of the beast because I'm not afraid, because I'm in a higher position than
good for you.
Most of you are. And I do like glitz. And
he's got 2 coins. Yeah!
Oh,
let's go.
He's got 10. Let's go.
Coins,
Pump
guys.
and dump. Pump and dump.
Yeah, Riz,
Pump and dump.
It wasn't an insult. It was so he could drive up, the market. He wanted to make sure people knew.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's totally reasonable.
Artificial scarcity. So anyways, go ahead and address what I said before that, where you're claiming you're both correct, but in order for you to be correct, you have to assert that there was additional information that then got lost or wasn't passed down, although you have no evidence of the specific additions to the story that you believe in ever being there in the first place, and certainly ever being deleted. Go ahead.
Okay, I can give you one account of that then. Yep. Satan, the devil, is accounted for in everyone's book. Yeah.
No.
Not Jewish people don't believe in Satan.
Okay.
Also, that doesn't prove that this specific information about Solomon was ever there and then deleted. Even if Satan did exist, that doesn't prove that at all. Okay. So
it does. The reason being, the Quran makes the unequivocal statement that Satan
somebody
was
just gave him like 350 coins.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I got distracted.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, help me destroy these. I'm very joking. Satan, basically, the Quran makes the unequivocal statement that Satan was of the jinn, whereas many other religions believe that he was a fallen angel. An angel is a different being to a jinn. An angel is made of light. A jinn is made out of smokeless fire. So this is where the difference comes from, and this is where the clarification comes from in the Quran.
This has nothing to do with Solomon.
It does, because you're saying, why doesn't the Jewish tradition have any account for any jinn? I'm sort of trying to say that Satan, who came in many generations before the Jewish tradition, has been accounted for many years, many previous histories, but people didn't class him as a jinn then. So jinn have been known about. It's just, why has it been hidden from society? The word jinn actually means hidden.
Well, again, though, this is just like someone made a claim something exists, therefore you believe it. That's like I
You've
write down.
invented a hypothetical to account for the absence of evidence here. Okay, that doesn't do anything for you. So
Okay.
again,
Let me give you another. Let me give you another line from the Quran.
Explain why you think, because I think that the only reason you believe you're both correct and there was just additional information that was taken out is because your book says that's the case, and it doesn't matter that there's no evidence. You'll just believe it anyways. That's what I think. But what do you think?
Well, I don't agree with that because I've looked at the evidence for all. I've read the Quran, I've read the Torah, I've read the Bible, and I've read the Book of Enoch. I've read I've read the Hermes Trismegistus. I've read many other religions, and what I've found is there's a commonality between, discrepancies or people selling religious text in earlier history in order to basically profit from it or to conceal the truth. And what I'm trying to say is, with regards to the Quran, it's this revelation that is spoken and memorized. So you don't need a book for the Quran. You can find a Muslim and ask him to repeat some of it.
You know that word of mouth is the most inconsistent, unreliable form of data transfer, like that we know of, right?
I agree in normal cases, but in terms of the Quran, that's not the case. It's the most accurate form of data.
Hold on. Okay, Riz.
A little bit of special pleading.
Where is the original Quran that was written by Muhammad himself? Where is it so that we can compare today's text to it?
Well, I think there's 3 copies. There's one in Saudi Arabia, one in Turkey, and one probably in...
You don't want to say that, Riz. You really don't want to say that, Riz. There's a 23-year gap between the time of revelation and the first written Quran.
I just wanted to say, though, Riz, that
Matthew, let me just clarify for you. There's not a 23-year difference. What it is it's a 23-year gap between the revelation being compiled. The revelation had already been written down and memorized.
The only preserved Quran you have is from 23 years after the fact, which means there is nothing in that 23-year gap that can be used to validate the word of mouth recitation, which means there is zero way that you can say that the word of mouth recitation was held accurate over those 23 years.
Actually, there is. No, there is.
What are you comparing it to then? What are you comparing it to then?
The evidence I'll give you is that for the time that Muhammad, peace be upon him, was alive, the angel Gabriel came every Ramadan and verified what was revealed by.
That's what you want to use?
Where's the evidence of that?
So next Ramadan,
will you allow me to finish what I'm saying?
Come and talk to me, and
allow me to finish what I'm saying, just so you can understand. Because by interrupting, you're not presenting yourself very good. By the angel Gabriel revealing every Ramadan with Prophet Muhammad while he was alive, verifying what he's speaking and what is written down is accurate. That is the time of Prophet Muhammad, Ramadan being the event at which it's compiled and verified. And do you know what still happens?
So you want to verify an unverifiable claim by making another unverifiable claim?
Okay. Does Ramadan still take place today? In this year, last year?
Does Gabriel come down and talk to you every year?
No.
If so you might want to talk to somebody.
Do you know that since the time of Muhammad, peace be upon him, up until now, that Muslims every Ramadan still recite the Quran and memorize the Quran and repeat the Quran in public halls in every mosque in every country?
Our modern day Islamic people have the ability to verify the memorization of the Quran based on a preserved copy that was preserved from 23 years after revelation. From the time of revelation to that 23 years, there was no written copy of the Quran to verify the memorization to. Therefore, the only thing that was there was word of mouth recitation, which is basically the telephone game, and that has been shown to be the least accurate and least reliable way of transmission of information.
Okay, so unfortunately,
in that 23-year gap, you don't have a way to verify what was recited maintained its accuracy.
Well,
Okay,
and
so
I just wanted to add one thing if I could, because Riz, this has kind of been like just a recurring thing. You're saying, well, X is true, and I know this because it was divine knowledge passed down by God or whatever, right? But
Or
that's
Gabriel.
equivalent of me doing this, right? Jinns don't exist. Jesus himself said it, and I know this because this was knowledge passed on to me by God. This is the
well,
exact thing you're doing. The only difference
but-
is you're using text that was written before I wrote this. But other than
okay,
that,
Tyler.
this claim is still just a claim. This
Okay,
doesn't mean
Tyler.
I actually have evidence of Jesus ever saying this, of
Well,
anything, right? It's just a
the-
random, it's just a statement.
okay, so Isa, who I know Jesus as, clearly states in the Bible that he cast the demon into a swine who was going to be cast into the abyss, but he begged to be cast into a swine. So Jesus cast the demon, the jinn, into a swine. So therefore, you have evidence in the Bible that jinn existed.
That isn't evidence. That's a story within the Bible. That isn't evidence.
You're not even representing the story properly or correctly. You are
Okay, so
saying, oh, this demon in this book is actually the jinn from this book. They just used a different name for it. That's not how that works. That's like me saying Johnny Appleseed's not really Johnny Appleseed. He's actually Frank who lives down the street. He helped me plant my garden. Right?
so Matthew, with regards to you,
That's not somehow,
you're
that's not any way
you're a
evidentiary.
classic,
Different than this.
Matthew, you're acting like a classic apologist because I gave you a clear, defined example of the fact that the Quran was written down at the time of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and that
No,
it was
you didn't.
23 years before it was compiled. Yet
No,
you
you
still
didn't.
went ahead and said
No, you
again and
didn't.
again.
You said the
that-
angel Gabriel came and dictated it and made sure everybody always got it right. But that's just
Which
another
is-
claim. And that
No,
isn't
no.
backed up by anything
Unverifiable
except
claims
for
to
what you
support
want
the
to believe.
unverifiable.
The claim that Matthew was making was that there was no written copy during the lifetime of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. What I'm
Correct.
trying to clarify is there was
I
a written
said
copy.
you
It
cannot
just said he wasn't-
verify there is a written copy. That's
I
what I
can.
said.
This
No,
is
you
what I'm
can't.
trying to say
can't.
to you.
So
You
can we
cannot.
I
can we
just
back
said
up for a
to you,
moment?
the book is in Saudi Arabia and Turkey. I'm verifying it.
The oldest actual Quran that is still preserved dates 23 years after the supposed revelation to Muhammad. It's not the same time period, right? It's a full generation after the fact.
Can
You
we
are
back up for a
confusing-
moment?
You're confusing compilation. Do you know what compilation means?
There is no verified copy of the Quran
So you're not going to
prior
answer
to
the
that point.
question, but you're just going to be repeating your apologetic answers.
The,
Yeah.
the claim is that there are no there's no full copy of a Quran from the time of Muhammad. That is the claim. So if you're going to make a different claim, then congratulations, but that's not what we're talking about.
But hold on.
Here's another verifiable bit of information. All the extra bits and pieces of the Quran that just happen to be written in separate dialects or not to be complete or any of those, do you know what happened to those when this full compilation was made 23 years after the fact? They were burned. They were gathered and burnt so that there was no alternate forms of the Quran coming from these separate dialects.
You're hitting me with all the classic apologetic questions and answers, which
They're
I can
not
give you the
apologetic
answer
questions. They're historically
Yes.
known
What
to
it
be
is
true.
it's almost like you watch YouTube and followed what every other bigot might have said.
It's
and then
more
just
like I
repeated it.
actually understand the history a little bit more than you, which
No,
is
no,
a
you
shame
don't
considering
understand
it's
the
your own
history.
faith.
If you understood the history of it, you would know the answer.
I'm
Excuse
talking
me.
about the history, not the mythology.
Can we back
Okay,
up for
so-
a moment?
Yes.
Can we back up? And
I don't want
we
to talk
just-
about religion really all that much, but go
So,
ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, look, this all stemmed from the claims that we need to treat the claims in the Quran or the Torah or the New Testament or whatever. We need to treat these claims as if they represent historical reality. But I don't like the vast majority of religious people of all faiths don't do that. So why do you think that you've got it right?
Okay, so I guess the answer lies in the fact that there's a commandment from the 10 Commandments of Moses, which is, thou shalt have no other God besides the one true God.
That's fine. Plenty of religious people abide by that.
Yeah. But the moment you start ascribing partners or associating other events in the world or life to something else other than God, then you are likely ascribing a partner to God. So saying
I
that the
don't
Big
think
Bang
so.
happened naturally, or that the sun and the moon organize themselves at Goldilocks zone naturally, you're ascribing a partner unto God. You're saying that, oh, Mother Nature did this, or
Riz,
gravity did this.
I'm not religious, but there are religious people who think that God made the laws of physics, which means that it was all God's doing anyway.
Yeah.
Like
That
you can be so what I'm trying to convey to you is you can have these religious beliefs and still agree with mainstream science. Most people do. Most religious people also agree with mainstream science. So my question is, why don't you?
because, as I said, there's certain clear statements that don't agree with science, and that would, under the
Okay,
normal.
so how do these other religious people get around that?
Well, most religious people just say, "Oh, that's where science has just got it wrong, and we believe in something different." They just don't look into it or care about going into it
Or
to a point where
maybe they understand that humans are fallible. That humans, the people who did these dictations, who, wrote these things down, and maybe they were communicated to it by a divine being, but it was humans writing these things. Maybe they understand that, humans may have gotten it wrong. Or maybe God was framing something in a way so that people at the time could understand. So there are a myriad of ways to understand why your holy books don't agree with modern science. And most of them are not, well, modern science is wrong and the holy books are right. Like that is not like the generally accepted like religious position.
No, I understand, Blitz, and I appreciate that. As a scientist, you have many different religious friends that still believe in their religion, also believe in science wholeheartedly. But what I'm trying to say is that we are now reaching an era of life where science is allowing far too much to be, fabricated rather than being the truth, and that's what I have an issue with.
But why do you believe that?
For instance, again, it would just go long-winded, but fusion being one of them. Let's take that for instance.
What about it?
So when I started physics many years ago, we was told that fusion would happen within our lifetimes, or very early lifetime,
It just
10,
happened.
20 years.
I mean,
it just
it is
happened
still your
recently.
lifetime, isn't it?
And
Yeah,
has been a while.
and as I said, the same thing that you're being told now with fusion is exactly what we got told back then.
Well, wait a minute. No, last time, like back then, 20 years ago or whatever, you were not told that they had achieved ignition.
You had achieved ignition. It was the amount of time that it was achieved for that was
No,
lower.
I mean this is the first time that proper ignition was achieved. That's why this is still a big deal, even if it's not as big a deal as some people may have thought.
It's
And
huge.
You're
We got,
also
like,
just
3
describing
megatroughs?
you're describing wishful thinking that scientists engaged in, as if that's the same thing as we made a discovery and then later on the discovery was proven not to be true, right?
Okay.
It's like I asked this earlier, like science has corrected errors that other scientists made. Enrico Fermi won a Nobel Prize for discovering trans-Neptunian elements or trans-Uranian elements, but he actually didn't discover any trans-Uranian elements. Later on, a separate Nobel Prize was given to a different scientist who really did. But it was the scientific method that looked over the data and concluded, Enrico, actually, you didn't discover any new elements. It could not possibly have been done by reading a religious text. Really, reading a religious text could not possibly debunk a scientific discovery. It's not possible, right?
All right. So let me give you two examples of science where you could say how manipulating them would allow you to be in control of the world. So, for instance, fission. You agree that nuclear fission has been achieved and it's used for purposes of war. Would you agree with that?
It's been used twice.
Yeah. So we've achieved nuclear fission and we've used it for purposes of war. Yes.
Twice, yeah.
Right.
But we haven't achieved nuclear fusion, which could be used for peaceful purposes and also for ridding the earth of reliance on fossil
Yeah,
fuels.
they're trying to do that.
Fission
yeah,
is also
yeah.
a lot harder to do.
So
And for what it's
my
worth,
claim would be,
we do have hydrogen bombs. They do exist,
Yeah, we also have fusion bombs. Yeah.
and they're a lot more dangerous than fission bombs.
but what I'm
Like,
trying to say is that
Yeah, what does this have to do with anything?
what it has to do with is that science always has a problem when it comes to providing solutions to improve the world with ways of removing as much
Oh
as
my
possible.
fucking god. What methodology discovered chemical fertilizers which allow 5 times more humans to exist now than existed 100 years ago? It was science, wasn't it?
Fertilizers aren't good things.
Remember earlier when you said Klaus Schwab wants there to be fewer people on this planet? Okay, chemical fertilizers, it would be impossible for at least 2/3 of all human beings on the planet to exist without chemical fertilizers. Now, you're saying chemical fertilizers are a bad thing. You want 2/3 of all human beings not to exist. You can unmute yourself whenever you want.
Okay, are ladybirds fertilizers?
We're not talking about that.
No?
But are ladybirds
Ladybugs are pest control.
They might be pollinators, not fertilizers.
What
They're
I'm trying to
definitely
say
pest
is
control.
ladybirds are natural fertilizers. Yeah? Without having to
when they
harm
die, or
meaning they eat the insects that damage the plant.
that's not what a
That's a
fertilizer.
not a
pesticide, not a
fertilizer.
fertilizer.
Fertilizer is today they're chemicals, but we used to use like guano, bird poop and bat poop and whatever, or crushed up bones.
Okay,
I don't know if there's like a language barrier here, but fertilizers, you're thinking of pesticides, and I agree that pesticides aren't necessarily good, but they can be used in a good way. Fertilizer is what you add to the soil to replenish nutrients.
In the UK, we call fertilizers both for the same term for pesticides and for.
Okay, I was talking about chemical fertilizers.
So yeah, I was getting confused as to what you're saying. Carry on then.
So I mean, also like penicillin, right? Like antibiotics, medicine generally being like even I know how you feel about like the what do we call it now, the Jabberwocky, but like I'm sure that you think that like antibiotics like from 50 years ago is good, right?
Okay. No, I understand. And with regards to the fertilizers, you do know that decomposing bananas and many other natural waste produces nitrogen and potassium and things that are needed for being excellent fertilizers.
Human beings used every single natural thing they could find to exploit the soil to grow as much food as possible. Human beings did that for thousands upon thousands of years, and we were doing the absolute best that we could. And then we ended up starting a horrific slave trade off of islands off the west coast of South America to get fertilizers. And then a scientist who was one of the most important people who lived, and also kind of a terrible person, Fritz Haber, invented chemical fertilizers. And now we have those. Okay, so this, did you know bananas? We could not possibly have the numbers of people that are alive today if it weren't for synthetic, man-made fertilizers. It's impossible because we never achieved it in the thousands upon thousands of years leading up to that. And if you want to imagine we could restart it today, the only possible way we could restart a new mechanism today is by using the progress that we made using that tool to try to do it in a different way, but there's no natural mechanism that can put nitrogen in the soil at the rate that allows 8 billion human beings to live. It does not exist.
Well, I'd have to disagree with you.
Okay, well, you have to be wrong.
Okay, so I'm
disagreeing with a fact doesn't really help your position.
No, the reason I'm saying that is because people who, and again, I don't want to bring religion into it, but people of different faiths to me have taught me recently, because they have been creating, I don't know what the American term is, but in the UK we have, allotments where they create their own plants and stuff like that. And there's thousands of people doing it in the UK right now. So That and one of the things that they don't use is fertilizers or pesticides.
Yes.
So
Do you think that those
This is on
allotments
a
could provide food for
microscopic
everybody in
scale.
the UK?
well, with what's coming up in the world, that's the aim of these people is to try to provide food for their communities in the event that we're not able to sustain ourselves due to factories only supplying our main source of food.
Yeah, you're only talking about a local scale. What's actually being discussed here is a global scale. We're discussing feeding the entire
Yeah,
planet, not
global
simply
is
your
made up of
local
lots of
community.
local. Global
No,
is made up of lots of local
because
communities.
not
Yes.
every place on the globe has the same sort of resources or the same sort of environment which can grow the same sorts of foods in the same sort of way. So we need to be able to distribute food to these areas as well. If you don't, the people in these areas starve.
But
Yeah,
like
lovely.
that's not the only scientific progress that helped. Like electricity
Yeah, you're talking on a computer right
That's-
now that fits in your pocket.
and like antibiotics and chemotherapy, despite how much that sucks, like and desalination plants so that we have fresh water. Like there's so many things.
It almost seems like it's come full circle because originally, this was kind of the question too. You were trying to say, well, you know, I don't know, as Peterson had pointed out, that science is wrong because your religion doesn't agree. But then you can't really name something that science has done like wrong, right? You can't. I mean, sure, there's things that we can say over time have gotten worse, but again, that's not science. You're more so that goes into like a political argument than anything.
Okay, I could tell you something science has done wrong. Putting fluoride into chemical water and waste in
Science,
the public water.
scientific achievements have done plenty wrong. Like mostly for war, but that doesn't mean that there's been no benefits from scientific progress at all.
Yeah, science is a tool, right? So there are, I mean, in Afghanistan, the Taliban has murdered people who try to teach girls because it's illegal to educate girls past a certain age, right? So those people they're using. Stop talking over me. Those people are using the faith as their. Okay, well, I can just mute you, and I'm going to. Great. So science is a tool that has been used by people to do bad things, but your faith has been used that way as well. So if you want to invalidate science in some degree, then you have to do the exact same thing with your faith, because the Taliban executes people for the crime of educating women, for example.
How dare they?
How dare they?
How dare they educate
Teach
women?
women.
Okay. So Blitz, I would like to categorically state that this is an American 2001 fallacy that's been quoted by Peterson today. It's again, the word Taliban actually means teacher, and there is no witch hunt on teaching women and girls and ladies to educate
Is it legal
themselves.
for girls to go to school past the age of like 10 or whatever in Afghanistan?
I'm not sure, but in terms of
it isn't.
No,
It is
not.
illegal to
It's
teach
illegal.
girls. Girls cannot get an education in Afghanistan. It's illegal.
So I'm originally from Pakistan, which is next door to Afghanistan.
Wow.
And there are plenty of girls going to school there. So therefore, I
In
would imply that
Pakistan?
the same thing happens.
Yes,
Yes.
Pakistan.
Just
Yeah,
because
okay, well, we're
Pakistan
talking about
allows it doesn't mean
Afghanistan.
Afghanistan
Yeah.
does too.
And what I'm saying is, Afghanistan being a neighboring country, I would assume they follow the same suit. But because of
No. Afghanistan
Well, you're
is a
wrong.
Like they're a different ethnic group, right?
They are a different country with their own laws. They are a different country with their own beliefs. They are a different country with their own infrastructure. They do not run the same as Pakistan does.
Do you know who Malala Yousafzai is?
yeah, she's one of those people, just like Greta Thunberg, who's been used by the manipulated press to make you believe narratives. Yes.
Okay, so you're just gonna disbelieve the facts in favor of what you believe. But she won a Nobel Peace Prize for her efforts to get young girls educated in the face of the Taliban, who bans that.
And what I'm saying to you, the word Taliban actually means teacher. So you're telling me that
I
teachers
don't
are forbidden
care
to
what
learn
the
the word.
word
referring to
means.
we're referring
If
to
you're
the
going to tell me the
political military.
definition of a word proves something is or is not happening in the world, then I'm going to say you're being an idiot. Okay? The
Okay,
Yeah, there's
The
can
Taliban
I
has
ask you?
made
concept
it
called a
illegal to
misnomer.
teach girls. That is a fact.
Okay, so Peterson, prior to 2001, or let's say prior to 1998, did you know who the Taliban were? Be honest.
Some people.
Peterson, how old were you in 1998?
In 1998, I was in like 3rd grade or 2nd grade.
Yeah,
Is that
so
in
you
secondary
probably didn't
education
know
or
who the
primary?
Taliban
Okay. Peterson's
So the
younger
only
than me.
relevant question would be today, has the Taliban made it illegal to teach girls? Yes, they have. Okay.
Okay, so you do know there's plenty of YouTubers going to Afghanistan right now from
Don't
America,
care.
from the UK.
Literally don't care at all.
Wait a
So
minute, Riz, why are you defending the Taliban? Like we can all condemn people in our own groups who do bad things. There are plenty of scientists who have done bad things. There are plenty of
no,
Muslims who have done bad things. There are plenty of Jews
no.
who have done bad things. Like, why can't we just condemn the bad people?
What I'm trying to clarify is that the word that's been synonymously
Yes,
so
but that's what they call themselves. We're referring to the group. We're not referring to the noun, right?
yeah, but
Sometimes people use nouns as group names.
you're also collectively assuming that every Taliban doesn't allow girls to get an
No,
education.
we're referring to the Taliban of Afghanistan. It is a group of people that run the government there right now.
Oh, so
That's
you're
who
just
that's
talking
who's
about
being
okay,
referred to.
okay. So
That's who
if you
we're
say that
referring
okay, so if you had said the government of Afghanistan don't
to, which is
allow
called the
young girls
Taliban.
to grow up.
Yeah, which is a fundamentalist theocratic state. The point was
I
they use their faith to justify what they do. The only reason I brought this up is because you said science has been used to, or science does bad things. No, science is a tool that bad people can use to do bad things. But overall, I would say it's unquestionable that more good things have been done by using science as a tool in this world.
No, I fully agree that any girl or woman or lady should be able to get an education to whatever level she wants.
Okay, then you
And if the
disagree with the
government of
Taliban.
Afghanistan, yes, that's fine. But what I was
Okay, good.
disagreeing with your use of the word being synonymous with girls not being able to get an education. I don't agree with that. I agree
Hey,
with that the
Riz.
government,
Hey,
yes.
Riz.
It's so
He's not
irrelevant.
talking about the word Taliban. He's talking about the group named the Taliban. And I have a question for you. How many times have you been to Afghanistan?
Yeah, I've been to Tora Bora about 20 times. I've got training there, and I'm ready to take you all out.
So
Hey,
I've been to the Helmand
Don't
province
Yeah,
say
of
that.
Afghanistan. I've been to the Helmand province in Afghanistan quite a few times
no,
myself.
I'm
I've
joking.
been to
I'm
I
visit
joking.
there,
know, but don't do
and
that.
No, the reason
it's not very fun.
I'm saying that is it's because of the media that you've got all these words in your head.
Yeah. The media. Matt's asking a question.
Remember, how many weapons of mass destruction did you find in Iraq?
If you think that I'm going to defend George Bush, then you're wrong. I don't believe in Satan, but if there is
He's a
one, it's
liberal.
George W. Bush.
Yeah, nobody's defending him. I'm just letting you know, Riz. I've actually been to Afghanistan. I'm a combat vet, right? And it's oof, it's not a fun place to be. It's not a fun place to hang out.
And
Riz, you're muted. You can unmute yourself whenever you want.
I was gonna say still seems kind of far from the point, right?
Yeah, can we talk about science again? So,
Yeah,
like, your point
actually,
was
I
that
would
science has been
love to
used to do
ask.
bad things,
I'd love to
and
ask Riz about a science thing he brought up earlier.
yeah,
Yeah,
Didn't he
let's
bring
say
up something about the sun being so large that the moon is infinitesimally small compared to it, and that if they
according
ever
to
were to
your
combine,
heliocentric model.
they would just vanish into nothingness? How does that relate to the sun and the moon being approximately equal sized luminaries?
No, I was saying that the heliocentric model believes that that's how the sun and moon work.
Well,
Yeah,
if you don't believe that, why do you bring it up?
because I was trying to use my religion, which says that the sun and moon
Oh,
will be joined up.
so your religion completely contradicts your position on a flat Earth. Cool, got it.
It doesn't, Matthew. It doesn't. And excuse me.
Riz, I wish you drank because this would be so much more fun if we were all drinking.
I wish if it was not 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'd be with
Hey,
you.
it's 5 o'clock somewhere, okay?
Hey, if you guys are ever in the area, I got the first round, right?
Where's the area so I can go there?
Central Texas.
Okay, yeah, I won't be there for a long time, if ever.
By the way, Riz, I had a
Yeah, just one
question
second.
on the point that you made.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that's fine. But I just wanted to let Peterson know something.
Yeah.
Prior to me coming in the box, there was no one in the box. There may be a reason for that. That's all I want to let you know. The reason I came in was to help you get some viewers and help you get some discourse going. But go ahead, Tyler.
I got you gold.
What does that mean?
you got $4 or $3.50 or something. You know?
Oh, no, I appreciate that. Not that I only give it to charity. So when I see those people scammers on the TikTok begging for money, I give it to them. Just so, you know, if they're in
I'm
need
going
of
to
it,
donate
give it.
all of the money I make from this live to some sort of foundation that goes to helping educate young girls.
Mine
Well,
goes
Oh,
to
that's
the
good.
Texas
or
M
give
Coalition.
it to me to fund my salami funds because
My
Oh,
salami.
my salami stocks are running low.
but yeah, so Riz, no, you said so the sun and moon appear the same size, and you said so that must mean they are. And I think this is going to be pretty obvious what I'm leading to. But do you believe this little girl in the Eiffel Tower are the same size? Do we need to be
Yes.
about a giant, 100-foot tall girl walking around, or is this just forced perspective?
That's one of the Nephilim.
Okay.
So
So I've been doing extensive research on this area, Tyler, and I have the answers for you.
yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So as you understand, the atmosphere of the Earth causes the sun to appear larger than what it actually is. And you know that the angular size of the sun is the same size when you look at it through a solar filter, yeah?
It stays the same angular size all day. Yep. So
Yeah.
can't be moving away from us
That
on a large scale.
that effect can be achieved with any light source that goes through a convex lens at a fixed focal point.
Well, the atmosphere is not a convex lens.
Nor is a firmament.
Well, that's what the area we may have to disagree on because
No, the firmament is not like the firmament wouldn't act as a convex lens. You have one medium, then you have either a parabola or like a hemispherical, depending on the shape of your firmament, whatever it is. Then you have another medium. The actual firmament itself wouldn't act as a lens, assuming it's sufficiently thin, because the curvature on either side of the firmament doesn't change. Rather, you would have the change in media would focus or defocus the sun, but that would result in blurring, not a clear image.
Okay, so just to clarify, regardless if the Earth is globe or flat, I follow Ptolemy's method, his belief, which is that the moon is, according to where science says it is, roughly 250,000 miles away, and the sun being slightly further out, but less than 1 million miles away.
Okay, but why? Why do you go with that? Especially when we have now literal, radar echoes off of the sun. Like we can just bounce radar off of it and we know how far it is. That's something.
You can't bounce radar off the sun.
Yes, you can. It's been happening. I can tell you the exact place that's been doing it if you'd like to know.
It can't, because when the radar hits the sun, it gets converted into a dial-up modem, and then people go onto porn sites.
What?
I mean,
that makes as much sense as the other things you've said, but
yeah, this is what I'm trying to say. That
we got a pretty good estimate of how far away the sun is by observing the transit of Venus a really long time ago.
That's based on the assumption that you live in a heliocentric system.
Yeah, which we do.
You work parallax by the fact that the sun being on one side of the planet being on one side.
It's not done with parallax. It's not parallax.
You can use
the Venus transit was parallax.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, my bad.
It just wasn't.
I
nearly-
win. Yes, send me some more gold. I won, Peterson. I could go ahead.
it was-
Get a happy man.
It was
I
parallax.
won.
It was parallax in different places on Earth.
Yeah. So what I wanted to add something. Though. So Riz, you were saying you agree that the moon is about 239,000 miles, right? You said you agree with that. So if that's the case, can we not figure out the distance to the sun using that? Or do you not think that the moon, like the light hitting the moon or illuminating the moon is the sun? Because if you did believe that, we could just use a triangle, right? We could put it at about a half moon, and we could get pretty close, right, within the ballpark of quote unquote their numbers.
Yeah, we could use the side angle formula. If we know one side length and two angles, then we can calculate the rest of the triangle.
But as I mentioned to you last time, Blitz, and I'm not an expert in maths, but a spherical trigonometry needs to be used as opposed to basic
No, not
trigonometry.
really.
It does, because
Not if you only have 1 point on the surface of the Earth.
Right. Maybe I didn't explain it well enough. So just think like you already know the distance to the moon, right? And let's say that you want to verify that, you could use parallax or whatever you wanted, right? But once we get that distance, we can put it at about half of the moon being illuminated. So we know that the sun would be, we could put our 90 degree there. Then all we have to do is solve for the other side. That's it. And if that's the case, like I said, Globey has actually done this on his page. We come within a really, really close range of, again, their numbers. I think he was about 3 million miles off because he only went off of 2 pictures to get the distance for the moon to make that angle. So that's the thing, though. That's still incredibly close.
Okay, so Tyler, what is the point that you're trying to make so I can understand what you're trying to ask me?
Well, I guess so. There was 2 things. So if we can use that to figure out the distance to the sun, if you agree that the moon is being illuminated by the sun, if you don't believe that's the case, then what is the moon's light? Where does that come from?
Okay,
LED
so
panel or what?
yeah, let's just clarify. Regardless of the sun being 93 million miles away, or being 1 million, or being 3,000 miles away, the main point that I disagree with science with is the fact that the Earth does not orbit the sun, but the sun orbits the Earth. That's the only fact that I want to unequivocally clarify science is wrong on.
And why do you say
Then
that?
clarify it.
So,
Do to that fact what you do to butter.
I eat
tell me
butter.
what you do to butter.
I can't believe
You
not
can
butter.
clarify it.
Oh, you clarified butter. Very nice. Very nice. My phone battery is on 6%. I would like some other person to be brave enough to come on here and challenge Peter.
I'm not gonna lie, my eyeballs hurt really badly, and I'm probably just gonna shut my life down. But
Okay.
it's
No,
been
thank
2.5
you for having me
hours.
on. I appreciate the discourse. It was more to just wake people up and have someone to talk to. But Peterson, if you want more flat earthers or more people to talk to you, stop attacking them. Otherwise, they won't come on, and then you'll have only an echo chamber. But you've been pretty good with me.
I
So that's
try to
all.
just attack the ideas, not the person.